This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 322 for Wednesday, June 19th, 2019. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. Joining me tonight is Mr. Brockett Vola from Candy of This Day on Instagram. Welcome, my friend.
Hello, finally.
It is good to have you back. You've been busy.
I have been busy.
So I have a burning question. I've been wanting to ask you this for a while, and I knew that you were going to be on the show this week, so I wanted to wait until I had you actually on the call to ask you. How was Father's Day?
Oh, it was nice. It was very good. We had a nice time with some friends. We had some pizza at a place I like, and I got to snuggle up on my sweet baby Emerson, and it was good. And that began day one of what we've been told by the pediatrician is a totally normal but very uncomfortable, sorry if you're eating, about week and a half of intense diarrhea our daughter will be experiencing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it started basically late Saturday night, and we didn't realize it because all of Father's Day we were doing so much, but we're like, man, she has a lot of wet nappies, as some people would call them. And then Laura, while I was at work on Monday, counted, and she's like, well, she's had 4, and I'm pretty sure this is not great. And she had some because she had an ear infection the week before that. So we were like, okay, we know that medicine causes this stuff, but hey, guess what? She's been off that medicine for a week. So what's going on? So forth, so on. I hope you've enjoyed your takeout as you listen to this. But yeah, it's been fun. But other than that, it's been really great and pleasant. I actually came to the show prior to the technical difficulties, which, thanks to the wonders of the internet, Joel will hide from all of you and his rage that he has against me whenever I show up on the show after months. And he's like, it's like I have to reteach this monkey how to do everything. I came in with a really great attitude and whatnot, because it's just, I got some good news at work. I got a little bit of raise, and then
congrats, man! That's great.
Father's Day was nice. Yes, thank you. And the general sickness of my baby is not as bad as the internet can tell you when you do certain searches. So that was rather nice.
Yeah,
and
the Google MD is your enemy when you're a parent.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah, she's becoming a Morlock was one of the most popular Google searches. I was like, it isn't very sunny in Chicago, Joel. So I do understand that is one of the biggest options, but it's not true. But then today, and I was able to finally I think off air, we've discussed it a bit, but I try and do some writing. That would be the closest thing I have to a passion artistically at this stage in my life. And I finished what is my first draft of a book I am writing. And I double checked, and it's definitely over 50,000 words. So it counts as a completed book of some nature. Although I Googled some of my favorite first books of series, like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which taps out around 70 plus. So I'm like, well, I'm still a ways off from that. But I think when I do a second draft, it'll probably thicken up, because where you start, and I started the beginning and finished the end today, things have changed, and I'm sure there'll be some continuity changes I made in the moment that now suddenly, this is not my story, but I'm now going to coin it if it blows up. The Mermaid Prince starts off the novel with 4 hands and ends as a space-wielding 8-eye spider alien. Those types of changes as you write a story probably make less sense to a reader, so in future drafts you smooth it all out so it's just a pure Mermaid Prince or, the spider alien beast. So yeah, but that's just that just gave me a little bit of a boost. felt good listening to James Horner's The Rocketeer theme music,
Oh
R.I.P. James
man,
Horner.
that's a
That's
great soundtrack.
It's so beautiful. When I literally picture flying through the air, and I'm a Superman fan, and I love the Superman theme, but
Hmm.
when I picture flying through actual clouds and just bursting through them with absolute joy, I hear the Rocketeer in my head. It's just pure like adventure
Mm.
and joy
You know what's
of
another
like
good one
flight.
is How to Train Your Dragon soundtrack.
Oh really? Who's that one? Like Silvestri or
I think
somebody
so.
else I know? Maybe.
I think so. I
I
think
feel
so.
like it's somebody I would know
I'm looking it up
off the top of my
right
head, but I
now.
definitely enjoyed the
John
first
Powell.
movie.
I should know that because I have the first two soundtracks. John Powell is the composer.
John Powell.
At least he was the
Okay.
composer on the first one. I don't know about the second one. Hold on. How to Train Your Dragon. Agon 2. I had to think for a second. Did they do that stupid thing where they called it TOO or just two? But no, it's just a number two. I've got too much Toy Story stuff on the main. No, it's John Powell again. So one of my favorite tracks is actually from the second one. It's a
Okay.
great soundtrack. But both of them are. I mean, you can find them on Spotify or your
Hmm.
favorite music platform and stuff like that. That's actually something I've been spending more time doing. I've been listening to more Spotify stuff while I'm working
Oh,
instead
really?
instead of podcasts. Well, here it's like a two-way street. I don't have an awful lot to talk about this week in terms of visual consumption because I haven't really been watching a whole lot outside of the usual YouTube Minecraft stuff that I might watch over breakfast in the morning, but that's all for a different show. Uh,
Hmm.
it's summer here now. It's like it's overnight. It's just now summer. So I have been eating outside instead of in front of the television. I've just been sitting on my backyard patio and staring at the trees, which is it's been awesome. Just to eat outside is one of my favorite things. But I've been listening to podcasts while I eat instead of watching television, which is great. But then when it comes time to work, I've listened to all of my podcasts. So I've been
Yeah.
turning to Spotify, and it's like, well, you know what? I need to discover some new music, and so I mean, I'm pretty easygoing as long as it's not like R&B pop top 40 stuff. I tend to like, jazz or sometimes coffee table mixes, or I'll throw on like I listen to the Endgame soundtrack, which I hadn't heard, and so it's stuff like that on Spotify. I quite enjoy the interface and the discovery on Spotify. Like if you are listening to a song and you like it and then you tell Spotify, give me more like this, it is more often than not like a 20-30 song rung before I say, nope, skipping that one, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've been an early adopter of Spotify right around, well, not right around, but probably about like 11 years ago or something. I ended up doing that instead of Pandora.
Mm-hmm.
And then I straight up was like, all right, I'm blowing, I don't know, $10, $20 on like a few bits of music. And then finding out that if I just pay a flat, whatever it was, 10 or something for premium Spotify at the time,
Yeah.
I think it's still roughly the same in the
Yeah,
States.
they do a lot of advertisements and promotions for like 99 cents for 3 months, but it's 9.99 Canadian anyway for a monthly full access Spotify premium.
Honestly, if yours is similar to ours, it's worth it because the best thing it does is it lets you download the playlists. It lets you download the
Right.
playlist so you don't have to use data, which is we don't have an unlimited data plan. So Netflix and Spotify are king of my apps because both of them allow me to download the things I want to
Right.
watch or listen to,
Right. I forgot about
which is
Netflix
great.
allowing the offline stuff. I use it mostly at home on a desktop, so I'm plugged in, so I don't have to worry about data. I
Jeez.
don't stream much on my phone at all. But I mean, again, it's one of those things where like I have a really weak data plan because I'm on Wi-Fi at home for most of the time. The odd
Right.
trip out, I, e- even if I watched a YouTube video on the bus, I would still never hit my monthly cap because I'm not doing that daily. Like it's once in a blue moon that I might be out and about.
Right.
And usually what I would be doing would be taking photos and uploading them to Instagram or stuff like that, going a hike, that sort of thing. But even then, that's a lot of stuff that I end up doing where I take the photos and then it's not until I get home that I actually put them on Instagram because I'd rather just enjoy the hike. I don't enjoy the hike through my phone. I saw this great kind of like photo meme, kind of statement the other day, and it was someone that looked, the woman in the front of this crowd was probably around 50, well, it was 60, 65, something like that. And she was sitting there, and it looked like she was just enjoying either a speech or a concert or some sort of event, parade, that sort of thing. And she was just happy, enjoying it. And everyone around her from ages 18 through 45 was watching the same event through their phone. Like
Because they had it up.
They had it up, and they're all looking at the screen instead of looking at the thing.
Yeah.
And it was just this thing's like, well, what is she doing? She's enjoying the event, so she can tell you about it later. Like it's just one of those things. It's just a different kind of generational gap, right? It's so interesting to see that. But while we're talking about the stuff that we are consuming and watching and listening to and stuff like that, I actually watched a fairly unique film. Not normally my cup of tea. I don't normally go for like the romantic
I had
dramas.
to double check that this is what I thought it was. And
Yeah.
then when I did, I was like, I think
I've
Joel
been-
got concussed. This is
No,
not the
I've
film I would've-
I've been frustrated with Netflix content. It's most of the Netflix originals are like horror thriller / zombie this summer, and I just have no interest.
Yeah, that's true.
I tried a couple of original stuff, like what was it? Not Doom Patrol. I didn't get there, but the Umbrella Academy, and I'm like 3 episodes in, and I bailed. Like I just couldn't get into it.
Just read the comic, man.
Yeah, I
Oh
found it
my.
annoying. So so this is a romance. It's a romantic film, but it got a twist to it in that Adeline, the main character, stops aging at around the age 29 in like 1938, I think is when they said that this happens. So like well before the First World War. And the movie's set in 2015. So here she is like well over 100 years old. 108, I guess, as the math goes. But she's
the one watching the concert while everyone else is holding up their phones.
Pretty much. Well, no, and this is the thing is that she's had to roll with it, and she's had to switch identities and stuff like that. But I'll get into that in a second. But what I like so much about it is that it's one of those films that it has a narrator. Like for the opening and the closing, there's a person that comes on and narrates, and it might as well be Once Upon a Time. Like it basically sets you up for like you have to just suspend the stuff that you know. We're going to give you some pseudoscience story as to how this works, but it's the same sort of pseudoscience as to how like Frankenstein becomes a real monster. Like that kind of a thing. So you're like, all right, fine, I'm on board, whatever. And what I like about it is that everybody that's in the film, all the characters, just kind of accept it. Like it's weird, it's real weird, but they just accept it and they roll with it. And what you end up with is some really interesting conversations and some really interesting social commentary about the interactions between men and women, between mothers and daughters, between different people that you've known over time if you don't age. Like if it's that whole thing where you get someone that's been an immortal in one of our swashbuckling adventures, where it's someone that has never that doesn't die, like the Highlander, who's alive for like 400 500 years and has to deal with marrying, loving, and then watching that person yeah, exactly, watching that person get old and die. But this is different because it's a smaller window. But it's a unique story in that way. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward, romance film. And I really liked it. It was good acting. Blake Lively is in it, and I've not seen her in much. And she does a really good job of still being herself, but then just changing the cadence and how she speaks and the way that she moves to she's an 87-year-old or a 100-year-old in a 29-year-old body. So she's wise beyond her years, essentially, or up to her years, I guess. And just the way that she moves through life is very different. But she does that without putting on any kind of like big performance. It's very subtle. And I've not seen her in much because I looked it up, and the other things that she's been in are absolutely not my cup of tea. Like not Mean Girls, but it was like some other. I can't remember the other things that she was in.
Gossip Girl.
Gossip Girl. That's what it was.
Like
But it's the kind of thing where like I would have missed that. Like that would have been on when I was not interested in that kind of television. And the other stuff that I've seen her in, like The Town, because I remember watching that, but I don't remember her in it. So she must have played just someone's wife or something like that. And but she's a good actor.
In Green Lantern.
Yes, and that's the last thing I remember seeing her in. And I remember she was good enough, but I don't remember that being a good movie, right? So you don't remember anything about that particularly, specifically standing out. But she's really good in this. So is Michael Huisman, who's in it as well. He was in Game of Thrones, I think. He played Dario Naharis, I think. But he's good in this. He plays the replaced one.
Later one.
The later one, yeah.
Yeah.
He's in it. He
Oh, it
plays
is. Yeah.
I think he's like a tech guru. So he's kind of rich and not bored, but he's doing all this kind of like philanthropy and trying to make the world a better place. And so that kind of like, because of his kind of like do good kind of mentality, it's what kind of attracts her to him, because at first there's all this flirting and he's coming on not necessarily too strong, but he's being overly charismatic and kind of trying too hard. And what I liked so much about the commentary is that she's just kind of like politely snubbing him, but like snubbing him hard, but as politely as you could with style. It's really quite amusing, and you can just tell that she's just bored with the typical advancements of men, right? Like she's a very attractive woman, and this is not news. Like this has been happening for 80 years. So it was really interesting to see that kind of dynamic. The other dynamic that I really liked in the film is that she has a daughter, and daughter Fleming is played mostly by Ellen Burstyn, who's quite her senior to Blake Lively. She's old enough to be her grandmother, and so that's the little fib that they tell people when they're out in public. You know, they'll hug and she'll say, "Hi, Mama, how are you?" But really, they pretend like it's grandmother and granddaughter. So you have this really interesting conversation between daughter and mother, but visually, it's the flip, like it's the reverse. And so who you look and expect to act like a grandmother is acting like the daughter, and it's just really, really well handled. The only thing that I found was a little bit kind of eye rolly was not the beginning. The beginning, you're just kind of like, yeah, sure, you know, there's a car accident, and that's how she ends up with this ability to not age. But at the end, I like the conclusion. It's the events that lead to the conclusion that I was kind of like, oh God, really? Distraught lover speeds off in car. You can imagine what happens next, right? Like you see it coming a literal mile away. It's like, okay, really? You couldn't think of a better way to do this? And that was my only kind of point where it's like, darn it. This movie was so unpredictable to the point where you really kind of had to give it a lot of originality props. And then they just the last part was just like, wow, the car crash was kind of, I mean, it's not a spoiler because it really has it doesn't spoil anything. It's just the litmus test as to how they get the decisions after it to then fall into place. It's what pushes that. But I really liked it. It's a great film in that it's not boring as a romantic film, because a lot of times it's with this stuff, it's like, you know, guy meets girl, guy screws up, guy spends the rest of the movie winning girl back, you know, or the vice versa. Two young lovers, you know, headstrong in love, and parents say, nope, not having it. And then the rest of the movie is them secretly, you know, doing their thing. But I feel like this was different because it really didn't take as long as you would have thought for them to get together. And then even after they do, like the way that they interact with one another is different than any other kind of relationship I've ever seen in any other film. And I'm kind of surprised I've never heard of it. Like it's good. And I would have thought that someone somewhere would have mentioned it to me before. Have you seen it? Did you hear of it?
No, the only thing I knew about this was that Harrison Ford was in it, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah. He plays his dad. He's at that age now where he gets to play people's parents in movies.
Even though he like is so like, I'm gonna punch the crap out of you. Like he's still in that mindset, and I'm like,
he's still pretty gruff. Yeah, he's still pretty gruff.
Ford, you know, at some point the character you play won't be the strongest man in the room. Like he can't overcome. You can play fragility in your older age. That's the benefit of aging on screen. But I don't think Harrison Ford gets that memo, which is fine. Hey, good for him.
He wasn't necessarily fragile, but certainly vulnerable in this.
Oh, sure.
This is where I don't want to spoil anything for anybody that doesn't want to go watch it. But his role was unique. He wasn't just like overprotective dad, because he plays a very successful, I think, professor of astronomy, and from the house that they were living in, because Ellis and Adeline go to visit his parents. His parents are having their 40th wedding anniversary, and they're having a party, and Ellis invites Adeline to go with him as like fourth or fifth date or something like that, like a weekend away.
Mm-hmm.
And so but it's so Harrison there, there's some interesting stuff that happens there. And I was gonna go somewhere with that, and I don't remember exactly where it was, but yeah, like he gets to be an old softy, I guess, in a way, which is nice. Because I mean, it's his wedding
Oh,
anniversary. Like
interesting.
it's and it brings up some stuff there. And what I liked about it is that he definitely has like a well-to-do kind of like not necessarily powerful man in the room physically, but like he's definitely being protective of his son,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because Ellis is young, but also very successful and attached to a very successful family. So you get that kind of bravado, but not in an aggressive way because because he's like his wife, played by Kathy Baker, who just keeps him in check. Like it's just
Yeah.
like William, shut up, stop it, that kind of stuff. But it's good. Like I mean, if you want something fun to watch on an evening with Laura, I'd say throw it on.
Nice. Yeah, I wonder if she's seen it. It's just romancy enough. I wonder if she's seen it or not. Age of Adeline, because she did watch. She said hate watched Gossip Girl for a while.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and and uh, and pretty much, other than that, and Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I think those are the only
Oh,
things
yeah,
that.
that's the other big movie that I heard of that Blake Lively was in, but again, not something that I saw.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Um,
This magic pants that
yeah,
everyone can wear.
I know her mostly from being mentioned by her husband Ryan Reynolds in
Right.
various interviews and stuff like that. And I kind of like, wonder what she's been doing lately. And then I realized that they have 3 kids and they're all like under 5, so that's what she's been doing. Two
Yeah.
kids and she's now pregnant again. I don't know. I did a little bit of research when I was like, why haven't I not seen her in more? And then I realized that she's been mostly behind the scenes in a lot of stuff. But
Which is, I mean, that's hey, good for her because she in Hollywood definitely some of an actress's most valuable years can be when they're younger. So and lots of actresses have struggled with career or
hmm.
family, and so for her to be raising children and I mean,
Oh
hey,
yeah, no, I'm not at
for
all criticizing. No, it's
yeah, sure, absolutely. Um, what was I gonna say? The Shallows was a movie I really wanted to see her in. Are you familiar with that one?
I heard of it, and I'm trying to remember whether I've heard of it just because I happened to see it on her IMDb page when I've added it to the notes,
She's a
or
surfer trapped on a rock when a shark
oh no,
nearby.
no. I Shallows I thought was more like a Florida murder mystery. So no, nope, no. I had not heard
Well,
of that one.
I've been wanting to see it because I love sort of stuck in one place, stuck in one room, bottle stories,
Right.
even though it's not a very good movie. M. Night Shyamalan's Devil, they're all trapped in an elevator car for the most part of it. I like that. I still enjoyed that to some degree. So
Mm.
certain stuff like that level, some of my favorite episodes of any television show is when they're stuck in a room and unable to escape or whatever it is. Um, but yeah, that one's just stuck out to me. I'm like, oh, I should see that because I imagine she'll have flashbacks and she'll have hallucinations, but for the most part, she's stuck on that rock. I would think for the majority of that film,
Yeah.
because she needs the whole purpose is to escape the rock and escape the shark because she's just far enough away from the shore and I think she's got a hurt ankle or something. I don't know. The premise of the trailer was like, hey, I can get into this. Castaway as a movie is my favorite Tom
I'd
Hanks, and
say
he has
I
a
really
hundred.
enjoy Castaway. I almost
Oh
watched that
God,
again the other day, and I
oh,
haven't
it's so
seen it in a
good.
long time. But it's one
Laura
of my
hates
favorite
it.
movies. Really interesting.
Yes, she does like it. I mean, she doesn't hate it, but she like makes fun of me because like of how much I bring it up more, and she's like, I can name like 5 other better Tom Hanks movies. I'm like, but like, I
I
love
don't know if I
Castaway.
can name a better Tom Hanks movie that I.
Well, objectively and critically, he's had at least 5 better films. I think population wise, though, I think probably Castaway's a lot higher up there than people would think. I think he won the Oscar for Philadelphia. That's a good movie, but I think Castaway probably trumps it in his most popular films overall. I think the
Oh,
only thing that could possibly be higher is probably Forrest Gump and Saving Private Ryan as far as like films in which
Yeah.
he is. Maybe Big. Big's also still very, very popular.
Castaway was 2000.
19 years old. It's
That's
old enough to drive a car and
nuts.
vote
That's
and smoke
nuts.
cigarettes in the States.
It's
Well,
funny
not
because you
anymore. Things have
mentioned
changed.
Big, Castaway, Forrest Gump, and Saving Private Ryan, and those are the like biggest things that he's known for.
He's listed at, yeah,
Yeah.
boom, nailed it. I got the Family Feud, the top 5 answers. I just boom, boom, nailed
But
those.
I'm trying to remember what I've seen him in lately, and I don't.
He just did, well, Toy Story 4 just came out, but he just did the another biopic. I can't remember what it was. Damn.
Huh.
I'm blanking
Parkland?
on it.
No, that's from 2013. What's recent? Nothing that I see here is recent. It's all 2018. Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia.
That's really
Here
strange.
it comes
But
again.
yeah, Castaway is one of my favorite films. Oh, maybe
really
maybe
love
this is his. Maybe I was looking at his producer credits. That's why.
I really love
Um,
shipwreck and ship movies.
Toy Story
It's
4, of
funny.
course, is coming out later on this year. He's in that.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm looking through all these recent titles, like 2000, and really most of them in 2014. Like I don't even.
The Post, that was the bio thing. It was
Oh,
for Spielberg. But I mean, like, it was 2017, like you said.
yeah.
And then he did Sully in 2016. And of course, David S. Pumpkins, which is popular for SNL.
Oh, I know why. The last few films that I've seen him in, they're not recent. They're like 10 years old, but it's Robert Langdon, the Da Vinci Code and the Angels and Demons. Those are the last
And
two
Inferno.
things. And
Yeah, I
Inferno, yeah,
gotcha.
those are the last few things. I think I saw Inferno. Yeah, I must have. That's 2016. So yeah, those are the reasons why I'm just like, yeah, none of his more recent stuff is really kind of rising to the top of like, Castaway and Forrest Gump.
Right.
Like I've not
Did
seen.
did you ever sit through Cloud Atlas?
I tried. I don't. I think
You
I
don't
might have finished it, but if I finished it, it was a long time ago. One-time viewing, remove from list, delete from brain. Like
Oh, okay.
did not.
I saw it in theaters and I've been wanting to rewatch it, but it's so long. And it's 6 quote unquote concurrent stories, even though they're not concurrent, they're all at different points of time. And you don't actually really know where they all fall until late in the movie. But like 4 out of the 6 stories I found really engaging. In fact, I would even say 2 of them I could remove and just watch on their own if that was possible with the way the narration works, which it really doesn't.
Hmm.
But that's one that stands out to me. I'm just like, man, every once in a while I'm like, well, Tom Hanks is kind of strange, but he does like a film that's not just an affable person does an affable thing or biopic of person who's an everyman that we can respect. Like once he moves out of those 2 things, every once in a while, and if it's not animated, he'll do something that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like I wouldn't like Lady Killers, which I did not like, but the Coen brothers, when he actually played a bad guy, I was like, I appreciate his character work in it. I just didn't care for the film. I didn't care for the humor of the dark humor of it. I didn't really care for any of the antagonists, protagonists, anti-heroes, any of them really.
I just thought about one that was fairly recent that I watched that was terrible, and that's A Hologram for the King.
Hologram for the King.
It's one of those movies where I got through into like Act 3. Like I nearly finished it and I still bailed. Like it was one of those things where like I paused to go to the bathroom or something and just like, you know what, I'm done. I just don't care. And it was a very strange. It just had no rhythm. It had no momentum for me. And that's one of those kind of
I don't recognize anybody in this but him and Tom Skerritt.
I mean, he's still a good actor. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, his role in it, you get the dead end that his character is dealing with, but he's still good at it. He's one of those guys too that because it's funny that he comes up because I just recently saw a clip of him on the Graham Norton show. It came across my YouTube like recommended thing. And it was him, Macy Williams, and I can't remember the name of the big British boxer that they have on the show from time to time. But Tom Hanks is one of those people in an interview where I could watch a 45-minute interview with him, no problem. He's the kind of person where I wish that David Letterman would have him on My Next Guest Needs No Introduction.
That was my first thought. I was like, why has he not been on that show? Because Clooney's great on it. Obama's, I love watching George Clooney for the most part talk, and Tom Hanks is the exact same way. He's just one of those guys that like you love to see him sit down and just having a conversation with somebody else because he just seems capable of talking about anything. He's relatively harmless. He doesn't really voice. I mean, the one knock you could possibly say on him in this day and age is he doesn't really voice any particular strong feelings about anything. So everyone can like him, which is perfectly fine way to live.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's still so. Yeah, he's effortlessly charming, but like in a different way than like somebody like Ryan Reynolds, who's like sexy charming and aggressively charming, and
Right.
like, whereas Tom Hanks is just like he I mean, it's kind of a silly thing, but he is kind of like a goofy uncle or relative that you love, that
Hmm.
you just enjoy seeing every once in a while.
Yeah. It kind of makes you wonder too, like when you've got that kind of Hollywood clout and, talent and stuff like that. Like I wonder if he's just, like if he just really like kind of leans back and waits for really good projects to come along. Like at that
Possibly.
point you probably could, I guess. And that's probably one of the reasons why we don't see him around on like, talk shows is because like, well, he's got nothing to promote. So like why would you go through all
True.
that effort to just go out and do stuff?
He has
But
made that joke before, I've heard. Like I think he was on an SNL once and he was like, I have nothing to promote. Like when somebody
oh.
shows up in those circumstances when they're like, I have nothing to promote, they always make a joke out of it. But it does look like he's working on at least 6 movies, 3 in post production. So maybe these in the end of 19. Oh yeah, he's doing that's it. It just didn't come out yet. He's doing the um, theatrical version of a Mr. Rogers biopic.
Oh,
Um,
right.
Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. So
That's
he's yet
right.
again playing affable, real life person we can enjoy who
Right.
did something remarkable with their life.
Right.
And then he's doing Greyhound, which I imagine is about somebody stuck on a bus. No. Oh, he's a Navy officer during World War II. So he's back in. It's weird. I never would have pictured Tom Hanks to be in as many like war-esque movies, but he's like Bridge
Mm.
of Spies, and he's got these other things. I don't know what Bios is. On a post-apocalyptic Earth, a robot built to protect the life of its dying creator's beloved dog. Okay, strange. Learns about life, love, friendship, and what it means to be human. Cool.
Is he the robot or is he the inventor? Or
I
both?
don't know. Is the dog the inventor? Is the dog the robot? Is Tom Hanks the dog? I don't know what's happening.
uh,
Um, and then he's
so
doing.
to move us along from Tom Hanks, because I'm sure we could probably beat around his career all evening long. What have you been watching, or what have you been wanting to watch? What's on your list?
Well, it's funny you just mentioned the audio thing because I've gotten taken a break from podcasts myself and been trying to get through some audiobooks. Audiobooks are just an easier way for me to go through, and I returned to Peter Klein's, who I enjoy his X Heroes, which is basically superheroes in a post-apocalyptic world. The superheroes existed pre-zombie apocalypse, and now it's a zombie apocalypse in which some superheroes is strolling around. And that's really fun. It's a pretty light action humor. Of course, there's a little bit of grimness to it, but definitely not heavy in the way like Walking Dead's heavy. Because I wouldn't be into it. And I don't like zombies, but I love superheroes, and I just picked that up randomly, and I really enjoy it. There's 5 of those books, but he does other sci-fi books, and he did one called 14. And I gotta say, honestly, it was weird. I thought of you and my friend Jeremy when I was reading it. It's like maybe this is something that they would enjoy. But the problem is, it's one of those books where it's like I can't really tell you about it because like that's
Right.
part of the thing.
Part of
It's
the
like it's
part of
a
the
weird
fun.
apartment
Yeah.
building. Yeah. It's light enough that you can kind of probably read it. It's I usually turn to audiobooks for like Stephen King and George R. R. Martin because I just can't get through those in front of me. But usually Audible, um, just to get more sponsorship for the show. That'll never come. Audible and Spotify, which are both excellent products. And Joel would love to hear from you. Audible has some really good quality narration, and actually, a few of Peter Klein's books are only on Audible. I guess because I don't know, maybe they just realized that he was good, or they just are grabbing up a bunch of books. And the person who did it, this guy Ray Porter, was quite excellent. He did a bunch of he did the voices just enough, and it was really good, and I really enjoyed that. And it was a standalone book that sort of is in a line of series. But my dad read the second one, and he already told me that it doesn't really tie into 14, which is what I listened to, the number 14. And then the second book is called The Fold, but neither one of them really connects to each other. They're just more of a series of books types, like his weird sci-fi-ish ones,
Cool.
away from the other series that he writes. And that was good. I really liked listening to that. And yeah, just sort of picking back through some old Netflix here and there, catching some movies I missed. Hereditary, which has stuck with me as quite creepy film. And trying to get through season 3 of My Hero Academia, which again, I don't know if we've I always forget certain things. I have to apologize, Joel. I don't recall your stance on anime and how much you do or do not watch any.
I don't watch much, mostly because I find it hard to watch. It's got something to do with the translation. I just find that they end up. It feels really like the dialogue is often forced and repetitive, and I feel like characters kind of act out of. I feel a lot of times anime, because of how overly explanatory the dialogue has to be after the fact, that it just feels like characters are acting because the script says so, not because I've been given any sort of information ahead of time as to why they would do the things that they do. I'm trying
It
to
is
think.
very
Yeah.
broadcast, some of the stuff. And they
Yeah.
repeat themselves often.
Oh,
like,
a lot. Like a
you were the
lot.
person that killed my father. I'm here to kill you.
Yeah, my name is
The
Inigo
villain says,
Montoya,
I
blah, blah,
killed
blah.
your father. Yeah, they
Yeah.
repeat each other back and forth.
Back and
And like
forth
the
quite a bit.
last episode is the beginning of the
Yeah.
next episode and so forth.
And a lot of
That
times
does happen a
too,
bit.
yeah, and a lot of times too, I find that they, what's what I'm looking for? It's like the animation. It's almost like they add dialogue because the mouth is moving faster than it normally would if it was English, but because they're dubbing from Japanese, then it's like they're adding in an extra phrase, even though really in Japanese it might have been just one thing that was said, but then that's said twice, or more is said in English than was said in Japanese in order to fill the space. And it just feels like
Sure.
overly talky when it doesn't have to be. And I say that, and there was one anime that I was having. It's like one of those sleepless nights where I just wanted something where I just didn't care if I fell asleep in the middle of it. Like I wanted something to kind of like distract myself while I was, staring at the ceiling at 1 o'clock in the morning. And it was some sort of like gun. It's one of those terrible titles where it's like a Fortnite version tournament where everybody's got a gun and they're all in the game, and it's a cartoon version of what it would be like to be this avatar character in this game. It's about this little girl that's got like pink machine guns, and she just owns face the whole time. And there's all these big aggressive, like muscle head, like douche knuckle, total stereotype, like bro gamers that are there causing all this kind of guff. And then she just kind of like finds it's like her superpower, it's like she's all scared and she's in the corner and they think they've got her down, and then for whatever reason she talks herself into like, I can win, and she ends up being like faster than lightning and just destroying all of these guys. And it's one of those things that's, again, it's horribly talky until the action happens, at which point it's horribly violent. Like she does terrible things to terrible people. But it's fun because you've been hating these like, it's bad acting, it's bad drawing, like it's all around like, get these guys off the screen as fast as possible. And then she does it, but she does it in the most gruesome way. And you're just like, well, that was kind of satisfying. I'm struggling to remember the name of it. I'll see if I could look it up before the end of the show. But no, I don't usually watch anime. I have, however, had my co-host Johnny from the Spawn Chunks on the Citadel Cafe, and he has spoken very highly about My Hero Academia.
Oh my God!
And I believe you have spoken very highly. Is it One Punch Man? That's your
One Punch Man's the other one, and I think as a Superman fan, you would appreciate One Punch Man. And I will say, although the drawing, quote unquote, of One Punch Man, if you Google his picture, it's very disappointing. Like the way they draw him is like, oh my God, this is your hero. But that's the point. And there are moments when he's basically so strong he's so bored. So the way his face is drawn is like the most boring artist has drawn a superhero face. And so it was hard for me to get into, and I haven't really watched it with dubs, which is something I really tried to do because I just can't read that fast, and I like to try and take in as much as possible. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole nother show for different people to talk about subs versus dubs, but I will dub as much as possible. And dubs nowadays are much better than I feel like 20, 10 years, even 10, 5 years ago. But anyway, One Punch Man is tight. Like the episodes, only a couple of them are two-parter sort of. I mean, the whole first season does sort of continue a story, but they don't do a crap ton of exposition. They don't do a lot of they do world building through action, which is more interesting. And I really, really, really think you could enjoy it because at first I thought it was a parody of Superman or that sort of idea of the one punch superhero. And it sort of is until you realize it's not. And um it both embraces and sort of teases a world of superheroes in which there's always a bigger and grander bad guy. And there's all these other superheroes and whatnot. And the first season was really, really good. It could be destroyed by the second season. I haven't seen it yet, but there was only 12 episodes of the first season, which is why I suggest that more. But My Hero Academia is so charming. I love the kids at a school to learn said skill motif that's become bigger and bigger. Like whether it's, I've heard about it for like ninja schools, and I've watched a little bit of My Witch Academia on Netflix, which is a witch school. But like My Hero Academia is just so perfect for me because it's superheroes, and All Might is one of my favorite like anime characters now. Like I just freaking love him. He's the Superman of that world, as you could obviously figure out. Um, but basically it's really fun and charming. And the first season has, I mean, the series in general, it kind of has some of those tropes. There's literally probably about 5 minutes of this one character basically telling himself that he can't do something, but he has to do something. So you do have those where you're like, oh my god, okay, I know you're going to do this thing, just do this thing, like I get it. But also there's a part that's like, oh man, you spend those 5 minutes, and then when you get to it, you're like, yes, like you do kind of jump out of your seat for certain stuff. And the characters, there's a wide variety of the kids. Like if you get really annoyed by the main character, you might hate the series. But if you get annoyed by some of the other characters, like there's this one who's like a super raging violence guy who just makes bombs with nitroglycerin. He secretes from his skin. And I hate him. He's so annoying, but he's supposed to be the raging, violent, angry character. Which I'm like, whatever, whatever. But yeah, it's really cool. The whole series is a world of people with quirks, is what they call them. 90% of the whole world has some kind of power, and those that believe that power can translate to becoming a superhero can go to an actual school, UA, to learn how to become. It's basically the Harvard of superhero schools, and you basically learn how to become a superhero over the years, and it's really fun. And I really enjoy it quite a bit, and I would really recommend it if you can see it. It's on Hulu in the States, which I think we've talked about is not a thing for Canada, or
It is a thing, but I think it's just got different
it's
content.
limited, right?
Yeah, like I think there
Yeah.
might be not as much.
Crunchyroll is something my friend has told me might have it, but it's Funimation, and I believe Funimation might also have spun off and done its own like private streaming thing, which whatever. But
Mm.
One Punch Man, I do know is on Netflix. I do know, I think they released a dub. Again, I can't talk about that. I did it with subs, but I can't promote those two towards you enough. If you have an opportunity, um, go with One Punch Man because you can get to it, but also because it's shorter. And so at least if you get into like the fifth episode and you're
Mm.
like, well, that was sort of a waste of my time, you haven't like only scratched the surface. You've gotten enough to sort of be like, all right, well, I kind of get the gist of what this world is. But man, yeah, I really, really enjoyed both of those. It's just fun to see. um, I'm not superhero burned out. I know plenty of people are at this point, and I won't blame you. I mean, superheroes
Mm.
are the
Mm-hmm.
new vampires, the new pirates, the new westerns, the new army films. Like they're that genre that now has taken so hard a grasp of our culture, which is why it's so weird to think of like when Emerson's like an adult, what will be the new western, the new
Yeah,
superhero
the
film
new
that
thing,
like you're
right?
like, oh my god, everybody keeps making monster movies, everyone keeps making,
Yeah,
you know,
something in
um,
VR, whatever it is.
yeah, VR movies. Or
Yeah.
honestly, what it would probably be is a whole bunch of things like Ready Player One, because I think
Mm.
more and more people are making Wreck-It Ralph's, Ready Player Ones, where the characters exist in a VR world, like you're saying, or live in a video game. Because there are a ton of animes where which people live or are
Well,
accidentally transported.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what this. It was a Gun Gala Online is the name. Like the terrible name. It's actually that's not even the full title. It was like Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gala Online is the name of the cartoon that I watched. Like it's just I don't even know why I hit play because after that title you would think that I would just like what really, but it suffers from that thing like you said like where it's got that 5 minutes of the character trying to just describe out loud to themselves if they're going to do the thing that they're going to do and they want to do and for me, what was going on in this cartoon was this big burly sidekick that the little pink girl lead character has as a friend uh, spends like minutes on minutes describing the weaponry. It's like, what's that? This is my ARC 1947, blah, 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 blah. Like he goes on and on and on and on about the magazine that it holds and why he uses it and why it's better than the other guns that those other guys are using. It's like, oh, do you hear that? That's an ARC 47, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, dude, no one cares. Like it does not matter other than you're trying to fill this 20-minute time slot that for broadcast TV. Like it is useless information as far as the cartoon goes. But it's one of those things that I find happens so often in anime where I'm just like, if I'm awake and I'm not just trying to kill time at midnight, then I'm just like, nope, don't care, skip next. I did find one that I did not finish, but it was more of a time constraint thing than not liking it, and that was Mary and the Witch's Flower, which is a film.
Oh, I did watch that. I
And
was
it,
disappointed, but that's just me.
well, I mean, it smacks of Harry Potter, and I mean, it's not reinventing the wheel, but it was pleasant. Like, I mean, I thought it was cute. And
Yeah.
the animation was cool, and I was more interested in just like seeing how twisted and different some of the interpretations of these kind of like general kind of witch fantasy magic tropes
Mm,
are going to be. And
true.
so there was some unique takes there, but like you meet the person that you meet like one of the headmasters or something like that, and like 2 seconds after they open their mouth you go, huh, bad guy. Just because it's like
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I think it's a line from Lord of the Rings where like I feel like the enemy would appear sweeter but feel fouler, and or I'm
Yeah.
butchering the quote, but like it is like this very unassuming like older character, but then when they speak, the American actor that they've given dialogue to, it's like giving Jeremy Irons like some sort of like
Yeah.
soft loving dialogue. The moment that he speaks, you just kind of feel villain. Like everything just kind of
Yeah.
goes down a couple of octaves and he enunciates everything very clearly, and it just feels like it sticks to you. And he's like, nope, this is so you assume when you have that happen with the casting for the American voices, it's very often you're just like, oh, spoiler, that's the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. I I, I think I just with some I think I should just say it's a very pleasant movie. I think it's for a younger audience than I was hoping it would be for me. It never rose beyond a certain level. I felt not of imagination. The imagination was great, but I didn't feel like the depth of the story, or maybe I just wanted more violence. I don't know. It was like one of those things where I was like, My Neighbor Totoro I saw when I was in my 20s, whereas like Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle had a little bit more juice to it, so I really liked those. Um, and I think Mary and the Witch's Flower was just sort of more on the fun whimsy with a little bit of conflict, but not just enough for me to be really, I don't know,
Mm.
like thoroughly excited by it. But then again, sometimes I'm just like, well, I just need something that I can just throw on and turn off whenever and not have to worry about the tension being broken, which
Right.
I may or may not have done and ruined other things. But
Nice. Yeah, I haven't. I have very little patience for like content I don't enjoy, mainly because I don't get a lot of free time in the evenings to just kick up and relax and watch stuff. So I find I'm usually paralyzed by lack of choice. Like I'll go through a bunch of stuff on Netflix and I'm just like, all of this stuff that's remotely interesting also just feels mediocre, or it's such a crapshoot where you're just kind of like, this isn't a known franchise, or it doesn't have an actor I know, or like so much of it is like Netflix original stuff. You're just like, I don't know who any of these people are. And it's such a, I mean, it can pay off, but it's usually a risk. And until I hear other people saying, how good a specific series is, that I tend to like. I have it's like Netflix constipation where you've just got so much choice and yet
I feel that.
so little stands out. Like when
I will.
something
Yeah.
comes on, like there's a new film that I started to watch and turned it off because I didn't find it was going in a way that I found compelling, but it was called I Am Mother. It's a new sci-fi
Oh
film.
yeah, I heard about that. I heard it
And
was some
the
people just thought it was okay.
Yeah, I mean the premise is neat where you've got this robot that raises a lone new human after a world-ending apocalypse, and or at least in this facility these are where these embryos have been stored for safety, and so after X days the robot starts to raise a kid, and then the kid becomes a young adult, like 13 or something like that. And I ended it around the time that another character was introduced, a human from outside that's supposed to be contaminated or something like that. It's played by Hilary Swank. And I was really interested until the other human got involved. Like I was down for a film that is just an interaction between this robot and this kid. And
Mm-hmm.
probably a different actor as the kid got older, probably like, an actor in her 20s and maybe an actor in her 40s, etc. But I didn't realize that there was going to be this typical like don't trust a stranger kind of trope. And my dad watched the
Mm-hmm.
whole thing and he said it was good, but he didn't like the ending because he said it was kind of weird. And that's the other thing I find, that in a number of Netflix sci-fi films, while they get some points for some really interesting premises, they do not stick the landing for me. Oftentimes they take either the easy route, or they're weird for the sake of being weird. It's like, nope, that was dumb. Like that didn't, all of a sudden it takes this left turn for no other reason other than we wanted to end it in a weird way, when it doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense for the characters of the story or anything like that. I'm trying to remember the name of the one where the guy was biologically enhanced to go to a different planet.
Oh, I
Titans,
remember you talking
Titans or
about
something.
Titan.
Titans, something like that.
The Titan.
The Titans, something like that. Sam Worthington was in it, and it was
Yeah.
good right up until the very end when they revealed the final state of his transformation, and you're just kind of like, no, this does not make any sense whatsoever, and
Yeah.
that to me lost it.
Cloverfield Paradox was bad like that too.
Yeah, I heard those weren't great. Like they seem cool and the trailers seem cool, but then you talk to people and they're like, nope, it was just not what I
That
was
was great.
expecting.
It must
There's a
be a
number of
concept.
Godzilla stuff that's on Netflix too that I haven't checked out.
The anime one I started, and the first one was just so dry and so boring. I also
Mm.
am just not a fan of Godzilla. I've been teasing a friend lately about how crappy
Yeah, I don't like them
they
either.
are.
I've
Um,
never liked them.
I didn't even get through the new Garth Edwards one, the one that was really well regarded with Bryan Cranston and
Oh, I watched that. I saw that in
Johnson or
theaters.
whatever
Yeah, I
his name
was not
is.
a fan.
Yeah, I think I literally got to the halfway point, and I was like, Godzilla hadn't really even shown up other than in like grainy footage, and I was like, I don't care. I don't even really care that this is eventually going to get to a point where he's in the city, and that would be more interesting. And I've been told like, well, it's all about like the build up, and then you finally get the release in the last like 30 minutes, and I'm like, yeah, there's certain films like that, but then there's also times where I just like I don't care to get there,
Mm-hmm.
to wait that long. But I wonder if Netflix just has a problem because the way their structure is, they greenlight so much and kind of throw like shotgun it, that they
Mm.
just have greenlit so many scripts. And normally, I feel like scripts in Hollywood, unless you got like a really hot ticket name, have to bounce around long enough and and go through enough edits or see enough people and get enough notes that they kind of get fixed, or either they're so perfect they would get grabbed up by a studio. And since it's Netflix, maybe they're just like, we'll just grab everything. We'll just buy yours. We'll buy yours. We'll do it on this amount of money. And the people who are behind it are like, well, sure, as long as my movie gets made. And then it's like, well,
Mm.
you really didn't make a great movie. You made 2/3 of a movie. And then we were
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, well, let's figure it out. But
Yeah.
speaking of movies and getting ready for what you could or could not pass or push play on.
Uh-oh. I
Oh,
I smell a list coming on.
it wouldn't be me unless I forced other human beings to go through a list because I love lists. I love them so much. And it's been a while since I forced you to go through pass or play, which simply is I'm going to name a movie that's coming out, or in this edition, I've added some TV shows, some returning, some rebooting, some fresh. And I've tried to link on it, so hopefully you can just quickly look at it. And I'm familiar with most of them. But anyway, I'll throw out the title of the movie or TV show and give a brief sort of idea of it a bit. And then you, of course, can say if you would pass on watching it or play it. And it's just strictly gut instinct, and just assume you have the time, I suppose, for the most part. Just what's your interest? Is your interest pushing you to pass or play it? So you don't have to go too far in the detail unless you want to, but we can start with soon the new Danny Boyle film, I believe, if I'm correct. Yesterday will be coming out, and it's a very interesting concept. Basically, this guy wakes up one day and he's the only person on all of Earth who remembers the Beatles and their songs. And so he sort of goes about using that knowledge to his benefit and sort of what that means. So it seems kind of like a dramedy a bit. Would you pass or play?
Pass.
Pass. Okay.
It just doesn't. I'm not a big Beatles fan, so
Whoa. Okay. Well, then you'd be one of the people who's like, I've heard of the Beatles and I still don't care, dude. And he'd be
yeah.
like,
I mean,
what?
I don't hate
No.
their music or anything like that. It's just they're not. It's not something I reach for. Like it's like no.
Okay.
Yeah, not my thing.
That's
So
fine.
pass.
All right. What about? I believe it's pronounced Stuber because of the Uber implications. Basically, Dave Batista and Camille Namjani are. It's a cop basically using an Uber rideshare to hunt down some bad guys, and it's like a comedy.
Right. So I actually have heard of this because I saw a YouTube clip of one of the actors. What's his name? Kamel. I saw him
Kamal.
on the Ellen show, and not my thing. I'm sure some people are going to find it funny. I find Hollywood comedies these days a really tough sell. There's an awful lot of awkward comedy, and it's not my thing. So
Gotcha.
usually big kind of box office comedies like this are just not my bag.
All right. Well, how about this? This should be an easy one, but it's always interesting to hear how people feel about these. The new Disney quote unquote live action, The Lion King.
Play on home video maybe sometime eventually, but I'm certainly not seeing it in theaters.
That was Joel's political answer, so
Yeah.
that you don't write him about how he hates Beyonce, um, and all of them. No, I'm fascinated and interested, but saying it knowing that I have seen very few of the live action translations. I haven't seen the new Aladdin. Of course, honestly, Laura and I haven't seen a movie in theaters since Incredibles 2 came out last Father's Day. So really looking forward to at some point seeing another film in theaters. But in the meantime, how about the new Quentin Tarantino film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Hard pass. Do not like Tarantino films.
Interesting. All right. I'm have softened my stance on his films. I've never softened my stance on him as a person, which I do not like at all. But I'm curious about the Brad Pittness of it. He's always an enigma to me where either I really like his choices, like when he was in The Big Short, or I really am like, meh, like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, where I'm like, you're just Brad Pitting all over the screen. What about The Fast and Furious Presents, which, by the way, is the dumbest way to title anything. Just
Hmm.
call it Hobbs and Shaw.
So
It has The Rock.
I really like The Rock, and I really like
Mm-hmm.
Jason Statham. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Not the kind of thing I go see in theaters, just because I know that it's not gonna be. I've seen a number of The Rock's films. They're always entertaining, but they're not rocket science either. And
Yeah.
I mean, I watched one, Skyscraper, I think, was on was on
Hmm.
HBO or something. I caught it
Yeah.
over the month where I was subscribed to watch Game of Thrones. I mean, again, he's good in it, and it's a good action film, and it's a little bit different, but it's again not something that you don't really kind of predict what's going to happen halfway through. Um, but yeah, I have zero knowledge of the Fast and the Furious. Like I'm not a fan of these characters because I don't know them. I like the actors,
Right.
but I've got no idea who Hobbs and Shaw really are as characters.
Gotcha.
Never seen them in
Yeah.
a film before. I've never seen
I
any. I
lost.
might have seen the first Fast and the Furious because that was like when I was in high school, and
Yeah.
it had Vin Diesel in it. But I think that was it.
Yeah. I think I stopped after 6. I still haven't seen the last Paul Walker, which is 7.
Hmm.
Definitely haven't seen the Fate, which is 8. And I haven't seen this. And I'm okay with them. I enjoyed them because of biggest fan back in the day,
Right.
getting through them. And since then, I've been okay. I just realized I didn't do any of these. So I would play yesterday. Gut says pass on Starburst, play The Lion King. Gut says pass on Once Upon a Time, and Gut says pass on Hobbs and Shaw simply because I don't like spin-offs and I don't like prequels. Now, how about Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the very famous and popular kids horror book series translated previously by Guillermo del Toro before he left as director, and now he's just a producer of it. I believe it's just sort of like an anthology horror film collection of little horror films or stories within one giant film, much like Creepshow and VHS and those types of horror films. Any
Yeah.
interest, pass or play?
Pass. Not a horror guy.
Okay. Well, then this list will be very fast at certain parts. I will play. Although I did not read the books, I was too scared, but the covers were very creepy. So Google them if you want to scare the pants off of yourself. Ready or Not. It sounds interesting. It's basically this woman marries into this family, and then she goes to this big family reunion and finds out that the family has this tradition where everyone has to survive, I guess, the night or something. So they're all trying to kill each other. Me even describing it out loud makes me be like, okay, I'll play it. Like it seems interesting enough. And I believe if I'm correct that somebody in it is from The Babysitter, which I was like super into last time I was on. Well, one of the times I was on the show, I was like a big pro that Mick G film because it was so. Yeah, the babysitter from the movie The Babysitter is the main actress in this one. Not that I know it's necessarily related or anything, but anyway, I really enjoyed her in that. I thought that was a really dumb, over the top movie in the perfect way. And I think maybe based on the trailer, this could be similar. So I'm going to play. What about you?
Same thing. Pass. Not a horror
Oh,
guy.
all right. What about The Rook, which is a Stars film miniseries, like a movie thing coming? Basically, it is a space drama. The premise is that this woman finds herself surrounded on Millennium Bridge in London by dead bodies with no memory how she came to be there. She soon discovers she's an agent with supernatural abilities in a British Secret Service called the Shekakui. I have no idea how to pronounce that word. Any interest in this sci-fi series? Or the general description of person wakes up not knowing they're part of a super secret British service with superpowers.
Not really. Like it just sounds like I am not superheroed out, but I'm done with origin stories. Like I
Oh,
don't,
sure.
like I don't want to watch Spider-Man getting his powers for the first time again, right? Which we're not going to get, which is good, because I just want I'd rather just go to and see. There's so many superhero stuff happening right now. I don't. It's funny. Like a lot of times I'll say like, well, we want something new. It's like, well, I don't really want this kind of new. Like I don't want to go back to the drawing board. you know.
Right, exactly. I should mention I did not put Spider-Man on here. One, to avoid any conversation that involves Spider-Man with me not seeing it in game, but two, also because we probably would see Spider-Man. This is almost a duh, or it might not be. Again, Stranger Things season 3, pass or play.
Oh, play. I was not super happy with season 2, but I enjoy the series. Like it's not like I didn't like it. It was like I didn't like it as much as I liked the first. But I think that's always a tough sell when you've got such a runaway hit as Stranger Things season 1. The follow up is always people have expectations, and whether or not you meet them or not you're going to have some people that are going to be a little bit disappointed. So if anything, I might like season 3 better because I'm going into it with slightly lower expectations, or at least expecting the unexpected, right? As opposed to seeing them continue on a trajectory. I'm expecting left field. Like I'm expecting maybe the world to expand or something very different. I think is going to happen. So
Gotcha.
And I like is it Millie Bobby Brown that plays?
Yes, Millie Bobby Brown.
She plays, what's the name of the character? It's a number, isn't it? 6?
11, right?
11. Yeah, I like her quite a bit. The other kid actors, not so much, but I mean,
I thought they were really good. Well, the first season, I should say, I thought they were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the second season, I think they're pretty good. Kid actors I've seen in Hollywood recently have been very good. I haven't been bothered by them as much.
I like the sheriff. He played Hellboy in the latest film. I can't remember what his name is, but that's terrible. But I really enjoy him.
Arbor, right? Harbor?
David Harbour. Yes. David Arbor.
Okay.
David Arbor, I think.
Yeah. Arbor. There you go. Yeah. I think he's pretty good too. I'm gonna play it. I'm actually of the opposite. I like season 2. Again, because the world was established and I was expecting Stranger Things to be an anthology series and was like, I don't know how you do more of this, and they did it really well, I thought. So I'm like, all right, I'm interested. Now I'm actually very concerned about season 3 because I'm like, okay, how much more are you gonna do with this thing? Like, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm very anxious about it. But I will definitely watch it. The Boys, of translation of a famous Garth Ennis. I believe Steve Dillon was the original artist for the comics. Garth Ennis, very famous for The Preacher, which was an original of his, as well as doing some Punisher stories back in the day. It's basically some normal quote unquote humans who kind of clean up after superheroes, either ones that have gone sort of off the rails and are trying to correct, like sort of like Who Watches the Watchmen type of thing. But yeah, and it's very, as far as I know, it's going to be on Amazon Prime. But I remember the comics being very adult, so I wonder how far that's going to go with this as well. But any interest in The Boys?
I've not heard of it until now, but it sounds interesting. I would at least give it a couple of episodes. It's if it's dark in an interesting way, that's cool. If it's dark for the sake of being dark on like subscription, outside cable access, so we can be as disgusting and either violent and or overly sexual as we want, then I may not be interested. But if it's got some interesting social commentary about that kind of thing, then I think that could be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm going to pass because I know Garth Ennis, and I know I'm just not a fan of the type of writing he does.
Oh, okay.
Like Frank Miller, I'm not a fan.
Oh, okay. Generally. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Frank Miller either.
Of Miller, yeah. No. Then you might not be a fan of Ennis. I guess we can pretty much answer this. It Chapter 2. I didn't see Chapter 1, but I pressed play on Chapter 1 and Chapter 2.
Yeah, that's a no for me on both.
Horror, that's a pass for you as well.
Yeah.
All right, I believe I'm pronouncing this right. Ad Astra. It seems to be a semi-drama, more dramatic sci-fi film starring Brad Pitt. It feels like another Interstellar type of thing. Basically, this astronaut travels to the outer edges of the solar system to find his missing father and unravel a mystery that threatens the survival of our planet. His journey will uncover secrets that challenge the nature of human existence and our place in the cosmos, aka fill in the blanks Mad Lib with a whole bunch of words. It's a very generic title read, but when I was looking at details of this, it seems stylized and like they put a lot of like juice in it because it's got Brad Pitt, Tommy Lee Jones, we've got Liv Tyler, we got Donald Sutherland. So there's a little bit of like name recognition here. Any interest?
Not really.
It's one of those things where I'd probably have to hear from some other people. I'm actually more like you. I'm very more pausey. Well, I guess you don't watch a lot of horror, but I'm more pausey on sci-fi because I'm very less forgiving on sci-fi, not the way I am with fantasy. All right. Well, Veronica Mars is being relaunched. It's not really rebooted because they're just basically making a 4th season for the canceled series, formerly of UPN and CW, starring Kristen Bell as the no longer teen detective and her SoCal neighborhood of haves and have-nots. It was basically promoted as Nancy Drew um, in the mid aughts, and it sort of was that, but it's really well written by a guy named Rob Thomas. No, not the guy from Matchbox 20, who currently is, I think, doing iZombie, and has done some other stuff as well. But I really love the dialogue on the original show, and I thought the first two seasons were nearly perfect for a show that kind of gets forced into 20 episodes a season. And the third season, which was broken up into 3 mysteries instead of 1 season-long mystery, I thought was just okay. But I imagine you haven't seen any of this, so I imagine you're not necessarily going to play the 4th season. But does any of it sound interesting to you at all in general?
It's good to hear that you think the writing is good. I've not seen any of the Veronica Mars stuff. I missed it. I was too old for it. I like Kristen Bell quite a bit, but I don't necessarily know if it's funny. I like Kristen Bell, the person. I don't know if I necessarily like the films and stuff that she's done. A Good Place was pretty funny, but I kind of liked it more for Ted Danson than anybody else. So, I mean,
he's fantastic.
Not that Kristen Bell is bad in it. I think she's good in it as well. But it's one of those things where it was a rare comedy that I kind of enjoyed. But yeah, passed only because I'm not invested in Veronica Mars, so season 4 would not be on my radar.
Okay, great. All right, well, let's. Oh, these ones I'm pretty sure we are pretty easy, but just to mention them, apparently Alfred Pennyworth from Gotham, that version of it's going to get his own television show. What do you think?
No, thanks.
Pass. I agree. Yeah. All right, good. Rambo: Last Blood. Sly Stallone basically doing the last quote unquote movie of another one of his characters. Any interest?
Nope.
All right.
I like Stallone again. Nice guy. He seems to be a really stand-up human, but I don't like. They need to stop making movies. I haven't seen any of Schwarzenegger's latest stuff either.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen even any of the original Rambos. This one we might have a little bit of an argument over because I think we did on Discord a bit. But Dark Crystal: The Age of Resistance series on Netflix.
Optimistically curious. The original film is an acquired taste. It's slow. It's real slow. And it's puppets. There's a lot to ask for someone to sit down and watch The Dark Crystal. However, the imagination behind it is really, really unique. And the trailer for the Netflix series looks brighter. It looks like there's a combination of puppets and CG, and if the writing is good from the visuals of the trailer, I would probably at least give it a go. And if it's Netflix, it's the kind of thing where if there's 13 episodes, you kind of got to give it 4, to see if it really gets going. It could be, and this is something I think is true of a lot of stuff. I've noticed it on any kind of new Muppet stuff that you might see, specifically films. Puppets worked great in the 80s because nothing was HD. But the moment that you get into 4K, HD, 3D, blah, 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 all the stuff that we expect in films these days, it just doesn't hold up. It just looks like somebody with their hand up a sock, compared to now, I would really like to see, again, they don't have the budget because it wasn't this popular, but if you could take something like Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar, the look of that film and how they achieved that. If you did that with the world of the Dark Crystal, I would 100% be on board. So I'm, again, optimistically curious about how the Age of Resistance is going to be on Netflix. I mean, it's good in the way in that the episodes are going to be as long as they need to be. So hopefully if they keep the writing concise and if it's interesting to watch, then it'll be
5 minutes an episode because it's so boring.
Yeah, that's how you really feel.
Yeah, it's a hard pass for me. Not nostalgic about those films. But maybe you can reach out to us in the Discord, and Joel and I can go blow for blow on it again. Although it was pretty civil conversation. For humor's sake. It's much harder to come at hard at a cult classic like that.
Yeah.
Speaking at something that's probably going to generate a lot of controversy and agitation, and already because of the trailer has Joker, the new Joaquin Phoenix film about, yes, the Batman character Joker. What are your feelings about it, pass or play, Joel?
Pass. Don't care.
It's interesting. I thought we were gonna have an argument. I kind of am on pass too until I hear from somebody. Stylistically, the trailer looks very fascinating, but it also looks like a trailer that somebody made to basically be like, look at my very artsy trailer about Joker. And I'm like, how is that gonna translate to a film? Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't like anti-heroes for the most part. I
You and me
really don't
both.
care for prequels, and this is sort of a prequel slash origin story sort of thing. So who
Between
knows?
Gotham, Pennyworth, and Joker, it's like how much Batman can we put on screen without actually giving people what they want, which is Batman.
True, that's
Right?
true. Although we say this with Krypton, apparently in like a season 2 or 3, I didn't even know that still was on the air. It's
Alistair
crazy.
loves Krypton. He says it's great, and I saw it. I saw it on like Crave or something when I still had it, and I just not
It's
interested.
real weird though because the preview for it. Sorry, spoilers. I haven't seen anything, but the preview for the next season is they're showing all these Superman villains. I'm like, what the f is happening? It was
Mm.
weird enough in Smallville was like, here's some people and he's not Superman. Here's some Superman villains and he's not even born. Like I don't understand. Like
Yep.
it's like sub Gotham. It's like there's a sperm that's Bruce Wayne and Joker's running around and you're like, oh well, what's Thomas Wayne gonna do
Yeah,
about this?
I don't. DC film and television is such a mess right now. Such a
It's
mess
a
right
really
now.
bad state, but I mean they've rebound. I haven't seen it, but I've heard because of Shazam and of course the somehow popularity of Aquaman that things are sort of shifting in different directions, but um, in weird ways. But yes, the people who are in charge of that are just doing very bad things. What about the Addams Family, the CGI film that's more like the comic, which, of course, yes, the TV show and the beloved movies were both sort of based on as well. But the Addams Family, I don't really think I need to explain it more,
Yeah,
but kooky
I've
family.
seen
Interest?
enough versions. No interest. I'm
Is it
sure
pass?
I'm
Okay.
sure it'll be I mean, if I had kids, might be yes, but it's I'd rather go see
Right.
Despicable Me 4.
Interesting. Yeah, I was just about to say it feels like something that people who like Despicable Me would like
Yeah.
because it's probably going to
Do you
have
know
some
who the
like
production company is on the cartoon?
for Adam's Family, I know my guess would probably be like Blue Sky, maybe
Right.
because of how it is. I'll try and effort it while I give you Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, the sequel to the I'm Misunderstood, Angelina Jolie, I'm Maleficent story from her point of view, in which she's the hero question mark, and now it's Mistress of Evil question mark. I don't know. I guess you can tell from my tone how I feel. What are your interests? Have you seen the original, Joel?
Hard fucking no. Like
Okay.
there's no way. I think I might have got 15 minutes or 20 minutes into the first one. It's like nope. Again, it's one of those things I watched at like 11:30 on a Saturday night as a second film because I wasn't tired yet, and I just like, well, I'm tired now, and off we go. So
Peace.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a no.
Okay. I'm a pass too. Apparently MGM is co-producing the Addams Family, so I have no idea what that
Yeah, I went looking.
translates to as.
I couldn't figure it out either.
So maybe they just went off and grabbed like generic CGI studio. All right, our last two, Zombieland Double Tap, the sequel to the popular film Zombieland, timely made what, like 7 years, 20 years after the original? I have no idea. Abigail Breslin's like freaking grown ass up, and she was like a kid in the first one. And I don't think they were able. Oh, they were able to get Emma Stone. So hey, good for you. Got all the original people back. So fan of Zombieland, fan of
Nope.
seeing Double Tap. Nope,
Nope, that's
pass.
pass.
Even with the horror comedy aspects of stuff.
Yeah, not my thing.
Man,
This-
zombies in my podcast is really gonna kick your ass. when it comes out.
I also find that Woody Harrelson, while a good actor, he's often just Woody Harrelson in different clothes. Like I don't,
True.
I mean, he can act better than I can, but I don't unsee Woody
Yeah.
Harrelson in his roles. Only
That's funny.
only a
Yeah.
few times where he's pulled it off. For whatever reason, in Solo, I thought it worked. And in most recently, I watched Highwaymen, which is a Netflix film with him and Kevin
Costner, right?
Good
I
movie,
mean-
good acting from from Harrelson.
Woody.
But I mean, like Kevin Costner has never been able to be a very good actor.
Yeah, Kevin Costner. Yeah, I'm
But
not a fan of Costner
interesting
either.
story, a really interesting story, especially because it's based on true events of
Yeah,
Bonnie and Clyde and stuff. So that was cool. But again, like, what's the other one? Was he was in the Hunger Games, right?
yeah, he
Yeah.
was.
So
Yeah,
that's
they're
that's
like
another one
mentor.
where I don't like. He tends to melt away. You know, like I those three roles I didn't really see the Woody Harrelson, but everything else that he's in, I always just see like, oh, it's Woody Harrelson, and I don't know what it is about him that I can't shake.
Yeah, I probably will pass on Zombieland unless Laura really wants to see it. I think I ended up seeing the first one because I was with a group of friends. And it was fine. I enjoyed it all right. But I'm gonna pass. And then of course the because you were watching Game of Thrones this last season, you probably saw this and Euphoria and Chernobyl previews shoved down your ever loving gullet. The
Mm-hmm.
Watchmen TV show, adapted by Damon Lindelof, of course, of Lost, and The Leftovers, both of which were mostly critically acclaimed at different points. Some of my friends love The Leftovers. Is doing what, in his words, is a remix of the story. So it's not a direct adaptation of the beloved Alan Moore comic that we've also seen Zack Snyder do. And in fact, the trailer itself makes me feel like really it's just using the name Watchmen and a few character images because I don't see anything else in it that makes me believe that it's actually a lot like the comic. But any interest in HBO's next attempt to create a cult classic?
Based only on the trailer, it's a tentative play in that I'm curious because again, like the boys, I kind of like the idea of that other side of superhero stuff. Like what do real people do? Like how does who watches the Watchmen, that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I unfortunately have yet to see it done in a way that I like. I dislike the comic. I really didn't enjoy that, and I dislike the film even more. So it's one of those things where it's as a TV series, I kind of feel like it almost might be better. You know what I mean? Like I feel like jamming all that into one movie just felt forced.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in a TV series, it could. This to me looked more like an X Files trailer than a Watchmen trailer. So that's what I
Mm-hmm.
see what you mean about like it just looks like a different mystery type twisty turny TV show, but with Watchmen wrapping paper.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just it feels to me like it might use the trappings of a popular or mostly popular franchise and then use it towards some other means, which I didn't read Westworld the book, but I was semi familiar with it enough. And now, without really saying anything, I don't feel like the TV show Westworld is very much about Westworld. So
Yeah,
it's
like
sort
it
of weird to
takes the
me.
premise of Westworld, but then the TV show is its own thing.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
so it's sort of like, yeah, it's like it took a grounding of a source material and then went some other way with it, which is totally fine. It's just sometimes it doesn't go in a way that you care about, or sometimes you care more about the core material and expanding the core material rather than extrapolating from it. So I don't know. It's a pass for me for now, but again, it'll totally probably depend on word of mouth and access of time, but it's a
Mm.
pass for me. So that's it. That's I try to keep it away from October, the rest of October. Well, actually, that's not true. I went into October, but I tried to stay away from November when some of the bigger things start to
Some of
come
the
out
bigger
as
movies. Yeah,
well.
cool. It's always fun
But
to do
that
this though.
should
I
do.
appreciate that you come with a list like that because like I don't have cable TV and unless it shows up in like an Instagram preview that auto plays, which I hate, then chances are I don't know it's going to be in theaters, right? Like so I don't really see a lot of the stuff. The only stuff like I said, The Watchmen, and I feel like there's one or two others that might have been happening either at or around like the Game of Thrones stuff. And of course, I've seen a lot of the Lion King trailers. Those have come up in various nerdy avenues that I've been on
Nice.
and around. Same with the Joker. I heard about that and saw that. I think someone posted it on Facebook and I went and checked it out. But yeah, like if it wasn't for these lists, I wouldn't know half of this stuff is even coming. So that's cool. Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show and taking the time out of your busy fatherhood to come out and talk films and books and all that kind of stuff. So I really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. It's tons of fun to yammer about stuff that we haven't seen and just make snap judgments. That's pretty much
like,
that's
this is a really boring Wikipedia article. I don't want to go see this film at all. Nice.
pass.
That's it, folks. That's going to be the end of this episode of the Citadel Cafe. If you want links to all this stuff that Brockett and I talked about, you can go to thecitadelcafe.com where I post the show notes each week. It's a lot of work to do the show notes. Go look at them at least once because I will then feel vindicated. That's also where I do post the show and it gets populated out, so, and it filters into iTunes, Android, Stitcher, Spotify apps, all the places where you listen to podcasts. So it does serve another purpose, but I do post links and stuff. I'm not sure how many people actually go and check them out, but if you do, let me know. And if you've got an opinion about any of these films, then drop us a line. It's thecitadelcafe@gmail.com. The music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod. You can find us by name on Twitter and Facebook. And if you have enjoyed this and you'd like us to make more, then head over to patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe and help us do that. You can join the show there. You can become a member of the patron-only Discord. You get bonus episodes like the Barista Cut, where sometimes I hang out with guests and we hang out after the fact and record a little bit of extra stuff about other things that we couldn't fit into the show. We are currently at 19 patrons. That is one more than we had last month in May. So goal for this month has been achieved. But I say, hey, why not go for around 20? Always having another person in the Discord is a great fun. It's where we talk about all this kind of stuff all week long and have fights about the Dark Crystal. You can come moderate. You can be our even Steven voice of balance in the Discord. My name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I'm doing online at joelduggan.com. You can also find me on Twitch, where I stream Minecraft and do art and stuff like that. And that is, surprise, surprise, just my name, Joel Duggan. That is where you can find me on all social media, really. And tune in to the Spawn Chunks. It is the show that I do all about Minecraft. If you, or maybe a smaller version of you in your life, play Minecraft, then you might be interested in that. It is a family-friendly show, unlike this one, so there's no cursing and swearing. We do roll our eyes at Mojang sometimes, but that's kind of par for the course these days, and that is at thespawnchunks.com. Brockett, is there any place that we can direct people to find you online and keep up with the cool stuff that you do?
Sure, you can check me out at BebopV23 on Instagram, the hashtag candy of this day I do sometimes. Twitter, it's TheCatVolver, and Reddit, it's TheCatVolver, and that's where you can find me occasionally.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.
Pass.